All right, so let's get started on implementing a more challenging component. Right now that we have some of the basic skills of handling events and being able to propagate state back to the component, right to get started on one of the requirements of the next assignment, right, of being able to edit a list of widgets, right. So first we'll see if we can just edit a simple list of anything. Right, be able to create new instances, remove instances, maybe edit some elements, and see how we can build that into something more interesting. Right. So let's first create let's create a project where we can work on. Right. So we'll do create a React app. And we'll do, we'll call it a simple widget list editor. Okay. So while that's being generated, right, one of the challenges that we'll need to handle is the fact that we're going to have to work with input fields, right? Up to this point, right, we've just been working on buttons, right, that or values that are just being rendered, right. We need to be able to also handle the changes of input fields for as we type on a field or we select something from a drop down, right. Again, the components are going to be stateless, so they're not going to maintain any of their state. Right? If you remember when we did this in regular React, right, without Redux, we were updating the state of the component, right, to keep track of the input fields. Remember that? Okay. Well, we need to do something similar here, but now it's not going to be the component's responsibility to do that. Instead, we need to store that somewhere in the state. Right? So we need to generate all these events, and they're going to have to be dispatched over to a Redux a store to remember all this state, because the component is stateless, right? It's dumb. It only renders whatever you tell it to render. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can go into a simple widget list editor. We'll need to install a couple of libraries, right? So let's install the Redux library. So we'll do npm install Redux, and let's not forget the -- save. And we'll also need to install the npm Redux-React, right, with the glue between the Redux store and the React world. Okay. So that's happening. I'm not going to open it up with my IDE. Apparently, it's not aware that it's JSX until it actually is all installed. So let's do an npm install Redux-React. Save. I think it's safe to open up now. Let's go to our favorite IDE. And wait, did I save this? Okay, I haven't. Okay, here's our favorite IDE. Let's close this. Or just opening a new one and see open, and it'll be under webdev, lectures, simple widget list editor. We'll say open. All right, let's see. And let's. I'm going to modify the git ignore to add the .ide idea, so that it won't store any IDE specific configuration files. All right, let's see. Let's blow away the original content in here, and let's start from scratch. So this is index.js. All right, and let's see if my IDE won't complain now. Let's see, import. Yay, okay. So let's see, React from React. We'll also need React DOM, so we'll do import React DOM from React DOM. Very good. And we'll start off by just rendering something simple. We'll do our React DOM, that render. And we'll render just H1. This is my widget list editor. All right, this is what would be displayed, right, on the right-hand side of our editor, right, our course editor, our lesson editor, right, for the assignment. And this is going to be rendered, document dot get element by ID, and in the root. All right, so let's npm start this. So npm, are we in the right place? npm start. All right, so we're there. All right, we're there. Okay, so let's first create our a placeholder where we can perhaps press on a button and render a whole bunch of different things, right, that we're adding to the list editor. All right, so let's do that. Let's see, what do we want to render? Let's see. Say that we have an initial state, right? So there'll be maybe a let initial state, and the initial state might be that we have a list of widgets, right? And the list of widgets might be an array of widgets, yes? And each widget might be have perhaps an ID, right? Actually, no. Let's start with 0, and might have maybe some text to render. So widget 1. And let's just create a whole bunch of these, right? Just so that we can render something. And this will be widget 2, widget 3. That's it. All right. So let's start with just this initial state. Right? And as a reducer, it'll use this as the initial state, right? Perhaps this might be something that we go fetch from a server, from a database, right? And that would be our initial state. Whatever widgets already exist in some API. Right now we have it hard-coded here, but you can imagine that this might be some AJAX call to some service widget, right? And then it will return all the widgets in there. Right? So this is going to be the initial state of a reducer, right? So let's create a reducer that just comes back with this list of states. So this might be const widget reducer will be right now just returning this initial state, right? So this will be return the initial state. All right, and we want to feed that. We want to feed that information to our widget list. We want to provide this information to the widget list. Right? So let's do that. We'll create a store. We'll say create store. So this will be let's store equal create store with the reducer. So the widget reducer. And that store is what we're going to be feeding some component, right? That's going to be receiving that list of widgets. Okay, so this will be maybe a provider with a store equal the store. I guess we don't have a store. What happened to the store? The provider. Oh, we never loaded the provider. So the providers are here, right? So this will be import. We'll need a provider. We need a provider, and we'll need a create store. Well, I know create store doesn't live here. And that's from where? That's from React. Where's Redux? Why is Redux not here? Oh, there it is, Redux. No, where's React Redux? React Redux. Huh? Yeah, it's not listing it. Did it not deploy? Npm install React Redux. Did it not install? Now I guess we could have looked at the package JSON. Oh, notice it did install Redux, but it did not install React Redux. Oh, did I type it wrong? Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's see the properties. All right, now it's listed there. Okay, thank you. Okay, React, Redux. So here, the provider is here, right? And it's providing it to a component that doesn't yet exist. So here's our provider. It'll provide it maybe to an app, maybe some app here. And the app might be this, but maybe a const app, which will be what? A connect of some widget list, list, right? Right? And we don't have a widget list. Let's create a widget list here, right? So this will be a widget list. It might be implemented here, so that'll be const widget list, which is going to be a component that takes as argument a list of widgets. So these will be widgets. And right now, for now, let's just render. Let's just render a div. And this will be h1 widget list, right? And it renders maybe the size of the widgets, how many widgets there are, right? So maybe in parentheses, widgets that length, right? So length, okay? All right. All right, but we need to feed widgets in there. So how do we feed it? In the connection, we can provide a map. We can say. We can provide a map and say that let's create a map here. We'll say const state to property mapper that takes as argument the state, right, and maps it to or immediately returns an object whose widgets is equal to the state.widgets. Okay? So that's the mapper. All right, let's see where we are. Is this complaining? Oh, it's not running. Let's start it. So npm start. Let's see any complaint here. Let's see. Create store. All right, we never loaded create store. So create store, that's part of the low-level React library. So we're going to do import create store. That's from just Redux, and the connect comes from the React Redux. So that's connect from there. Let's see any other complaints. All right, so widget length. It literally typed a widget length. So we might have, okay, I guess I meant to put this in curly brackets. Okay, so it doesn't know about widget length, and that's property of undefined. So apparently we're passing a null here, or undefined. So probably because, say again? You haven't added the mapper to connect. We have, ooh, thank you, there we go. To connect, there we go, right here. 3, all right? Because we have 3 widgets, right, in the initial state. Okay, so yeah, so that's again, this is the toughest part, right, of just trying plumbing, just plumbing these things, and this pointing to that, and that's just sending the data to there, right? That's where you're going to waste most of your time, right, of plumbing this and connecting it together. But once this plumbing is done, it starts getting a little bit simpler. All right, so let's see. Let's keep going. So what we'd like to be able to do is for instance, be able to just add additional widgets, and we'll do that next.